So, hey, welcome. Hi, everyone. I'm really glad that you were all able to come and join us for our second webinar in this series, Food Hubs 101. For anyone who maybe didn't tune into the first webinar, this webinar is part of a community-based research project led by Wilfrid Laurier University and the City of Yellowknife. And it has financial support through the MyTax Accelerate Fellowship Program. So before we kind of get started, I thought I'd give you a little bit of an update about how that research has been going. So over the past few weeks, I've spoken to about 15 producers, small business owners, government officials, and community groups. And I have about 21 interviews in total to right now to get through. I am definitely looking for more people to interview, so this is my official plug for for interviews. If anyone is interested at all, please just send me an email, and I will be more than happy to set up a time with you. All of the interviews so far have been absolutely amazing and incredibly inspiring. It's been really inspiring to speak with so many people who are passionate about local food in Yellowknife. So please, I'm more than happy to have as many interviews as I can possibly get. Another really exciting piece of news for us is that we are going to be welcoming a new member to our research team, Emma Butler, who unfortunately is not with us today because she is going back to Yellowknife. She's a co-op student who is from Yellowknife and is going back there after her studies from Carleton. She's going to be working with us to help with some of the this project moving forward. So as far as today is concerned, today we are going to be talking with 3 northern food hubs to share their experiences and share their experiences about what it's been like to start up and to run food hubs in their communities. So we'll be hearing from Connie Nelson, who is from the Cloverbelt Food Hub in Dryden, Ontario, so Northern Ontario. We'll be hearing from, actually I have a video to share. Unfortunately, the coordinator of the Alaska Food Hub, she wasn't able to join us, but she was kind enough to do a recorded presentation for us. So Robbi Mixon will be seen on video, and for the question and answer period, we have Emily Garrity, who's a producer and a member of the Alaska Food Hub. So she'll be here to answer questions for us. And then we also have, hopefully, if she is here, Amy from Sprout Kitchen in Quesnel, BC, which is northern BC, to talk about the newly established Sprout Kitchen Food Hub there. It was established just new in 2020, so it'll be exciting to hear a little bit about her as well, about that food hub as well. So I'd just like to take a quick moment just to acknowledge that Yellowknife is located in the Chief Dragees territory, the traditional lands of the Yellowknives Dene First Nation. And we really do respect their histories and languages and cultures of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of Canada, whose presence continues to enrich our very vibrant communities across the country. I think it's really important that we recognize that and take a moment just to kind of reflect on what that means and what that means for food in Yellowknife in general. Also, just quickly before we start with the presentations and our conversations today, I just want to say that this event is being recorded, and we will be posting it on the City of Yellowknife Foodies website, where we've been posting everything else. So with that in mind, you're more than welcome to have your cameras on, but if you could, when you're not speaking, just try and keep yourself on mute, just so that we can eliminate any sort of background noise for the recording. But by all means, when we're having our question and answers, if you'd like to turn yourself on and ask a question, go right ahead. That's perfectly fine. With that, I think I will pass off the microphone to Connie, and we can get started. So Connie, I'm just going to share my screen over here with your presentation. Start back from the beginning.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. It's really nice to join you. I'm quite excited about the potential for Cloverbelt to be a model for other people. And I hope in this 5 minutes that we can begin the conversation and then, fire away with any questions that you have. So I'm going to do just 2 slides, and then Jennifer's going to start a video. I thought that might be a good way just to get a good feel for Cloverbelt Local Food Co-op, is to do the video, and then I'll come back and go through very quickly in about 2 minutes the essence of a few more slides, and then Jennifer's got some excellent questions, and it'll give us an opportunity to really zero in more detail on some of the slides. So I hope that makes sense, and I look forward to your questions. Okay, so the name of this particular food distribution group is called Cloverbelt Local Food Co-op. Okay, Jennifer. Or I can go ahead. So it's CLFC, as we call it for short, is nonprofits. It's a multi-stakeholder co-op, so it has consumers, producers, processors, restaurants, and food-related organizations that are interested in local food distribution. It's created accessibility through an online farmers market with 6 pickup locations, and I'll talk more about that later. And I think one of the unique features that may be helpful north is up even further north is the fact that we actually have created a distribution system that is 422,000 kilometers. And from one end to the other, if you drove on the only road that goes through, which is the Trans-Canada Highway, it's 350 kilometers from the longest distance between 2 communities. It has 1,400 members and 130 producers. It started out in 2013 with 85 members and about 20 producers. Okay, so let's just hop in and look at this video, and then, go to the next slide, please, just a second. Okay, so I tried to give you, this is a map of Northwestern Ontario, and you can see how it fits into Canada. So it's a huge area with lots of very small communities, and which we'll talk a little bit more about later. And what was needed was a way to get from one community to the other with local food. So that's how CLFC came into existence. All right, let's just look at this video, and I'll tell you, Jennifer, when to stop it.
So I'm Jen Springett, and I'm the president of Cloverbelt Local Food Co-op. So we're here at the Dryden Agricultural Center. At this time, producers start to drop off their products. We do that on Tuesdays between 1 and 3. Our customers have been shopping all weekend, picking the products they want from the producers that they want, and then the producers come and deliver the orders here. Over here, we have our Love Local boxes. So these are a monthly box subscription. Customers from all communities can order these boxes, and there will be about 3 ready-made meals. So we send like nice little recipe cards with instructions and all of the ingredients that are all local, and they just need to put them together at home. It's just like a farmer's market, but it's online. So we're providing that space like a market, which is our website. And our producers all get to have their own little website. They set their own prices, they set their inventory, they choose which weeks they want to sell. They have access to all of their consumer information, their contact information. So it's very much like a farmer's market. We just facilitate the distribution of their goods and make sure the goods get to their consumers and put everything together for them. So when the producers come and drop off their orders, they get paid when they drop off their orders for all of their customers on the same check. So before we even had a website, we had 85 members signed up, which is awesome. Our community was very supportive of this concept. And now we are at over 1,400 members, and we distribute to Dryden, Ignace, Uppsala, Sioux Lookout, Kenora, and now a couple of locations in the Thunder Bay area. And so for the consumers, that means they have access to 140 producers across Northwestern Ontario, rather than having to go and maybe drive around for 3 hours and try and pick up things from 5 different producers. They can just pick everything up in town in one place from whoever they'd like to buy from.
What makes it attractive is there's not a lot that we have to do for it. They've set it up so that it's pretty easy for us. You're allowed to go on and you set your profile up where you say what you do, what your management practices are, so that anyone who signs on, they can see what your farm's about, who you are. And over the weekend, you just watch the orders come in. We package it up on Monday night, and I just bring it on over to the fairgrounds, and we make our drop-off. The Cloverbelt offers us clientele that we typically wouldn't see. Those few people that, they don't want to drive out to the farm, but they still want that good farm-raised product. It allows them to go online when it's convenient for them and pick up their product in town, which has given us clients that we never thought we'd have. We sell into Ignace and Uppsala and Kenora and Sioux Lookout, markets that we've never hit before. So it has opened up a bit of a market for us there.
So on Saturday, we list the amount of eggs we have available that we know we'll be able to have for Tuesday morning. So then we list these by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then people go online, order their eggs to whatever the volume is on there, and then on Monday morning I know how many I sold. So then I get them ready for Tuesday. It's a convenient way of getting rid of your produce without having to go out and actually peddling them. That's the nice thing. You put them online. I'm not a computer person, but it is a great way of peddling your produce.
Cloverbelt is a fantastic system. It has about 100 producers that go on every week and load up their local wares, their baking, their meats. It goes quite a wide range of products, not just your traditional garden items. So for us, it's easy. We can go on Saturday, we can purchase our items Saturday through Monday morning. And then on Tuesday, we can go down to the local agricultural center and it's all ready for our pickup. So you can really do quite a bit of variety shopping from your comfort of your computer at home.
More and more, food connects people
Jennifer,
who want to make their communities better places to live. There were.
Okay, so just briefly summarizing, how did CLFC get started? It evolved from a locavore box program, was incorporated in summer of 2013, and it's an open access online system, and it's had high support. Can you hear me? Okay. So next slide, sorry. Okay. All right, so I just did that slide. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so to give you an idea, I thought you might be interested in the demographics. The population in the area that's in red is 231,000 people, covers an area of 526,417 kilometers squared, which interestingly is about 57.9% of the land area of all of Ontario is here with the lowest population. Something happened to this slide. Okay, so the 6 communities where produce that have been the mini hubs around Dryden are, you can see there below, 7,000, Kenora's 15,000 and so forth. And the smallest community is 200. And I also put up the treaty, the slide with all the treaties. So all of this area of Northwestern Ontario is treaty land, either Treaty 9, Treaty 5, or Treaty 3. And there are over 43 reserve communities in this area too, which are very supportive of this initiative. Okay. Okay. So this, just really quickly, we had put together some posters saying what happens when you buy locally. 75% stays in Northwestern Ontario, 95% stays in Ontario, and 99% of your dollar stays in Canada. And then after a lot of investigation, we chose an open access online system that was originally developed in Nebraska. And of course it's free. And this is just one tiny little page, but this is what the producers go on Friday and put in what they have for sale. As the video says, they set their own prices. And then people can go on over the weekend and order. And then on Monday, the producers and processors can get their local foods that they want to sell ready. And then it's distributed on Tuesdays. Okay. So the first year we were only in operation for a little while, 2013, and there was, the revenue was 8,000, and by 2016 it was up to 305,000. Okay. And this is something that I don't, there's pros and cons, but the CLFC has chosen a $50 lifetime fee for producers and organizations, and a $25 lifetime fee for consumers. The producer pays 5% of his revenue that he sells to the producer. To CLFC, and the rest is the producers or the processors or the restaurant, who's ever buying it. And it's a convenient way to drop it off. And they do, as I mentioned before, they set their own prices, they retain ownership, and they have every freedom to choose when to list or not. So that it really dealt with things like people wanting to go on holidays in the summer or something, and they didn't feel like they had to be there 52 weeks of the year. When they wanted to put produce on, they put produce on, and when they didn't want to, nobody was telling them what to do. So the freedom of the system was excellent. And yeah, that's enough. Okay, Jennifer, let's go on. So you shop from 2 p.m. on Saturday to Monday, anybody that wants to buy local food. And the baskets are checked out by the staff and producers, and they prepare their orders and drop them off on Tuesday. I think we've said all that in the video. Okay, let's go on to the next one. And typically we've had 50 to 90 orders per week. And there's a list of the locations again. We can go on to the next one. So Cloverbelt has a multi-function. It builds capacity within communities. So one of the things we fundraised through GoFund, through a large greenhouse that schools could use and community organizations could use to extend their season, and the schools could use it to teach children how to grow food. So teaching has been a big part of CLFC, and sharing knowledge with other members has been a big part of it. And it started out as a distribution system for frozen meats and veggies, but it's amazing how many small businesses, a lady that had immigrated to Dryden from Austria knew how to make gelato, and she makes the best gelato in the world, things like that. Or people began to make breads and desserts and canned goods and things like that. So it branched out further than just fresh veggies and fresh meat. And it was amazing what creativity emerged in the community with lots of little small businesses. Okay, next one. So here's some more photos and examples of, we got a few grants to hire an education coordinator. And so they could work with schools and school classrooms to expand children's knowledge. And it was amazing the different creative ways that schools got involved, or specific teachers got involved. One of the teachers in one of the schools decided that she was going to have a breakfast program for all the kids on Thursday mornings. And her grade 5 class was going to prepare this breakfast. And of course, to the extent they could, they used all local food. So it was a great example of the kids being able to prepare local food for the rest of the school. We crowdfunded the community greenhouse, and we had a agriculture coordinator that did a 3-year salad bar in the schools, funding for on-farm intern. And also we worked with the health units in the area and did an apple and carrot project. Those are just a few examples of the kinds of expansionary projects we got into besides just distributing food. Okay. So some of the ways that we feel that a Cloverbelt local food co-op could be enhanced, and if you decide to go with this type of model in your own community, there's still a lot of work to be done on strengthening policies that support local food processing, because most of us that are in any kind of local food know that most policies have originated for urban areas, and a lot of these policies are really, some of them are actually detrimental to local food in smaller communities that are spread out over a wide distribution area. So we need a lot more work on local food policies, particularly for areas that are trying to distribute food across a large area. There's always more that can be done in increasing local food being sourced by schools, daycares, hospitals. All of those initiatives have begun, but it doesn't just have to be a family or a restaurant. We started out with just families as being the consumers, and then restaurants in the area were interested in putting local food in their menu, so they would advertise breakfast. These are the local food breakfasts that we have, and pretty well breakfast is an easy one, right? Because you can get local bacon and meat and eggs and so forth. And so education is another big one that is always can be expanded. And also supporting wholesale distribution and increased market access is a good one to forever. But we started small with just families, and then it just expanded it. The success expanded itself. And
Sorry, Connie.
Yeah.
Connie, we just need to wrap things up.
Okay, sorry, that's it.
Have questions. That's okay. Okay, thanks. Thank you very much, Connie. That was fantastic. I am going to share a video now from Robbi Mixon, who is the coordinator of the, there we go, the Alaska Food Hub, based out of Homer, Alaska.
Hi, I think we're recording now. I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Robbi Mixon, and I am the local food director for a regional nonprofit called Cook Inlet Keeper, based in Homer, Alaska, but the Cook Inlet spreads all the way up through Anchorage and is home to the majority of the population in Alaska. So about 6 years ago, me and a group of farmers and co-workers got together to dream up a plan to start a food hub. A lot of folks had this idea, but Cook Inlet Keeper really took it under its wing, and we created a USDA grant. It's a program called Local Food Promotion Program, and it was a 2-year grant to get us started on creating the Alaska Food Hub. And instead of me telling you all about it, we created this video that I want to share now with you. Let's see. Okay, I think that you can see that, and I will go ahead and play it now, and you guys can let me know if there's any sound issues. So,
the Alaska Food Hub is your online local food connection, featuring 100% locally grown and harvested produce, seafood, and much more. The Food Hub is like a virtual farmer's market, and the process is both simple and easy. Each week, producers list items for sale on the online marketplace. Product availability changes weekly and with the season. Once the ordering cycle is open, simply log on to the online marketplace and place items you'd like to buy in your cart. A confirmation email lets you know when and where to pick up your items. Return anytime during the ordering cycle to add more items. Producers deliver all ordered products to a central location where items are sorted and inspected for quality. Customers then pick up their orders and the cycle begins again. The Alaska Food Hub. We make local easy.
So that's our cute little video explaining what we do here at the Food Hub. Your awesome host Jennifer sent me some questions. I'm going to try and quickly answer since I can't be there today. Let's see, our governance model for our Food Hub. Right now, as I mentioned, Cook Inlet Keeper is our host nonprofit. So we are responsible to their board as well as our advisory board, which is set up of all mostly farmers, fishers, mostly the people that are using the Food Hub, but also folks like our soil and water conservation districts, people that really help us connect with farmers and with the public to buy our products. So right now we are under that umbrella. I believe the other food hubs in the state of Alaska are also have a very similar structure. I believe there is one in Anchorage that is a for-profit model though. That being said, we do surveys every year of our customers and our producers, making sure we are truly meeting the needs of both of those user groups. Let's see. Challenges and barriers we've faced starting up or to maintain growers and consumers. That's a really good question. I think we are now in our 6th year of operation, and it definitely took a while for people to even know about the Food Hub. We had a very limited outreach and advertising budget, but every year we've grown in our sales. And last year during the pandemic, we grew by 200% from the year before. So one, I think that's more people were starting to get to know about it over those first 4 years, but also we really we're already set up for distanced operations. And then I wanted to share my screen again so I can show you some of these great stats I was telling you about. Let's see. Let's see, that's not the slide I wanted to send. I wanted to go over our primary user groups. Are mostly customers and small businesses. One thing we've noticed with our food hub, we have not been able to break into more wholesale and institutional type places, but our farmers didn't want us to focus on that. Our farmers have 10, 20 years of establishing relationships with our restaurants and other grocery store type things, and they really wanted to keep those sales for themselves. So again, we want to be responsive to what our farmers and producers need. So the other awesome highlight, we've been able to work with the state of Alaska to be able to sell cottage food online, which we're the first in the state to ever do that. So cottage food normally has to be a face-to-face sale, but we were able to prove that our tracing and labeling was even better than a face-to-face interaction in some places. So let me see, I'm trying to pull up, here we go. Our vendor participation, it started out pretty high here in Homer. And just to let you know, we operate 2 cycles. So Homer is at the end of the road, about 4.5 hours south of Anchorage. And then we also operate out of a town called Soldotna. It's about 70 miles north of us. And they have about 5 times as many people living in that area. And we also fly our products over to a fly-in only village across our Kachemak Bay, and also to a rural town called Nanilchik, and we provide van transportation there. So you can see last year, both locations, our vendors grew by a lot. And also last year, this is our side-by-side product type. We got way more diversified last year in 2020 versus 2019. We saw a lot more different types of products. So more cottage food, more prepared foods, more flour, starts, that kind of a thing. And then our other really cool graphic I wanted to show you is our growth. Every year we've been steadily growing. So from year 1 to year 5, which was last year, you can see how much we've grown, about 406% since we started. So I guess that would be one piece of advice. Like it's going to take a while maybe for food hub models to take hold in your communities, but just kind of measuring every year and seeing that incremental growth. And then we had a big bump last year, was really, really pretty inspiring. So again, this kind of breaks down our income. Again, the big growth. And then, yeah, I think that also the other thing we did, we were able to operate almost year round, which is pretty incredible given that we're under snow about 6 months of the year. We courted vendors that has shelf stable stuff or that you could produce or make year round. So that was a big highlight for us last year as well. And let's see, I'm trying to see if there are any more questions that Jennifer may had. Yeah, I think that's all, unless you guys have anything else to add.
Yeah, so that was Robbi. I hope you really liked that presentation. I found the Alaska Food Hub a pretty cool model. I'm just going to ask if Amy is here from Sprout Kitchen. If you are, that is fantastic. And if you're not, then that's okay. We can just we can move forward. I have a few moderated questions that I'll do quickly, and then I will open up the question and answer to the question and answer portion to all of you. So okay, so it doesn't sound like Amy is here. So with that, if Connie and Emily, you would like to unmute yourselves. So as I mentioned, obviously Robbi couldn't be here, but we have Emily Garrity here, who's a producer with the Alaska Food Hub, who is taking some time out of her busy producer day to answer some questions for us, to be with us today.
Yeah, hi Jennifer, and hi everybody. I'm happy to be here. Do you want me to look at the questions that you sent? I can answer maybe the first couple, and is that what you're looking for right now?
I am. They seem to have magically disappeared on me. So yes, thank you.
Yeah. So one of the questions at the top was, when did you know you were ready to develop a food hub? Well, I sat on the Homer Farmers Market Board for 9 years, and towards the end of my time with them, we developed subcommittees out of our, I think it was a 14-member board, to try to create side projects on how we could capture more buyers in Homer. We're, for those of you that don't know, we're on the southernmost point of the Kenai Peninsula, and our town population base is really only 5,500 right in town, 12,000 in the surrounding areas, and that goes up in the summer because we're a tourism and seasonal industry community. So not a lot of people out there, so we're trying to capture as many people as we could to purchase local products. And a maybe a unique issue that we had here in Homer, and it's even hard to call it an issue, is that our farmers market is so popular and so busy and so crowded that there's a lot of people that wouldn't come, just because it was, you know, you want to come and buy broccoli and it might take 2 hours to make it through, you know, the lines in the community to be able to purchase your product and leave. So there's definitely a consumer group that was wanting to buy local products, but not have the time on a Saturday morning, you know, or we also have a Wednesday afternoon farmers market, but not have the time to come down to town and shop at the farmers market. And, you know, how it is in small communities, I imagine it just takes time to make your way through that. So we figured if we could capture that audience through a more streamlined system, that a food hub could do that for us. So that's, as a subcommittee of our farmers market board, we developed the idea. And then, like Robbi said, one of our board members wrote a FMPP, I think it was FMPP or LFPP grant. And I can't quite remember if Robbi said what that meant, but anyway, so we were able to get it started under our umbrella nonprofit Cook Inlet Keeper. And yeah, I think that kind of answered the second question here. Why did you decide a food hub would be the best option for your community? It was really trying to capture more people that are willing to buy local products, but maybe don't have the time or the privilege to, you know, take time out of their day to actually drive to our farmers market. So the online streamlined system worked for, you know, a bigger consumer group. And I feel like a lot of the other questions Robbi kind of went over in her video presentation. So yeah, not to take too much time, I'll just be here available if there's any specific questions for me or for the Alaska Food Hub. And if I don't have the answer, I'll make sure to write them down and get those to Jennifer, and I'm sure she can network out from there. So thanks again for having me, and I'm excited for your project there in Yellowknife.
Thanks, Emily. I just have a few quick other questions. I will actually maybe only answer or ask one or two, and then we can just because of the time, we can move into getting all of you to ask some questions. But I was wondering, so sort of when you started up, if there was a sort of a minimum number of growers, like growers, food and production, or even customers that needed to, you know, you needed to have in order for it to be that to be viable, in order for the food hub to be viable.
Yeah, so I think because we were so fortunate to have an umbrella nonprofit taking us on, we were aware that it might take a few years to make it a sustainable, financially sustainable model. So we have a 10-person advisor board. And I think that first year we had maybe 26 producers. I can't remember, Robbi had that for sure, but I don't, as far as I can remember, we didn't have a minimum. We just wanted to get it off the ground. And it was also supported through, a substantial federal dollar grant. So I think just knowing that it would take us some time to get off board, we weren't looking for substantial or for sustainable, financially those first couple of years. So that's the best of the, that's the best way I can answer that. Yeah.
So there was no minimum. That's kind of
no,
sort of it.
I don't think there was a minimum.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Connie? Was there sort of like a minimum, minimum standard, if you will, that you were looking for to sort of get things rolling? And
we actually had a feasibility study done just for what if we just had a food hub at Dryden, which was 7,930 people. And out of that feasibility study, it said we could probably make it viable if the people who work to distribute the food at the Dryden Center were volunteers, if we had 85 producers or processors. And there was such a demand from other communities that it quickly expanded into other communities. But therein also lies some challenges, which I can talk about if you want to. Well, one of them is that there ended up not being any particular refrigerated trucking company that goes directly through northwestern Ontario. In other words, some of them go from Thunder Bay east, like down towards southern Ontario, and some of them go toward Winnipeg. But that's one of the things that's really needed is if we were starting again, I think one of the grants you need right away is a distributor. You need a refrigerated truck that is dedicated to all the communities in your area. That would be one of my recommendations. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much to both of you. I am actually now, I did have some other questions, but I will keep them for the end if we have some time. I see that we have a few questions in the chat already. If you would like to, if you have a question and you'd like to speak, feel free to sort of like, I can't really see everybody, unfortunately. Actually, I can open this up for right now and I can see a few more people, but feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question. Otherwise, you can also write it in the chat, and Heather, who is helping us in the background here, she can read your question out. So we do have a few questions in the chat right now, so I will pass it to you, Heather.
Great. So we had a question come in from Heather Love asking a question for either of the food hubs. Are there coupons available for food insecure or waiving of customer fees within the model?
I can answer that first from our food hub. We do have a sliding scale initial fee. So I think it's $1 to $20, whatever you can afford as a consumer just to buy in to be able to purchase on our food hub. And one of the battles we're fighting and haven't won yet is to be able to accept WIC or senior coupons or SNAP, so food stamp benefits on our food hub. And we're working with our local government to be able to do that so we can help with access to food insecure folks.
It's an excellent question, Heather, because it is, I think, a wicked question in the food system, because a lot of times, a lot of your local market growers are also young, either struggling themselves to get started, and they can't afford to put the prices too low to make the food more equitable. So we don't have the solution to that. It really is a wicked question, because the growers need to be supported too, to sustain the system. What seems to have worked in the interim is to get different organizations that would support cheaper prices, like local food boxes or things like that, for people that were having difficulty affording the food at the co-op model. In other words, the local food box would buy local food from the co-op and put it in their boxes. And so in other words, they were subsidizing that food. I'm not sure that's a sustaining approach forever, but it certainly has helped in the short term to get more equitable distribution of food to all income levels by using organizations who actually bought the local food and put it in their own distribution boxes.
I can pick up with another question, but a comment kind of about the food insecurity is Suzette said maybe a pay forward system funded by consumers would help with food insecure. So a potential solution offered. We've had two questions that are along very similar lines, and that what is the link between a food hub and a local farmers market? Do the farmers markets morph into a food hub, or are they operating in parallel with one another?
I have a story behind that one, because when we held a workshop in Dryden in November of 2012, and what came out of that workshop is we realized that all the growers, in order to maintain a sort of viable income, were traveling over 10 to 12 hours a week just to get at different farmers markets. And that's where the idea of the online system and the distribution system arose from, because they realized that those are 10 hours or 11 hours for some of them, where they weren't home, doing what they really wanted to do, which was to produce food. Instead, they were out driving up and down the highway. So in Cloverbelt's case, the farmers markets were there, they were viable, but the producers were extremely frustrated because so much of their week was taken with driving to different farmers markets. And the other thing is, you could go home with a lot of ruined produce if it didn't all get bought. So they really love the online system because they're only harvesting exactly what is needed for that week. So they're not pulling, 50 more pounds of carrots and then having to figure out what to do with them. Like, one solution would be another business and have the carrots froze or go somewhere else. But it really was convenient for the farmers and the producers and the processors to know exactly what they had to harvest, or how many loaves of bread they had to bake, or how many pies they needed to make. So it did, in our case, the co-op model grew out of the farmers markets. The farmers markets still existed, but there wasn't the same pressure on producers to have to drive to so many different places.
And quickly for the Alaska Food Hub, that initial idea came out of a subcommittee, like I said, from the Farmers Market Board. And once we actually secured the funding to start it, there was some resistance with our Farmers Market Board. I think maybe some ideas of competition rather than collaboration, although the advisory board and the founding members were really interested in collaboration. But over the last 5 years, that has shifted. So now Farmers Market and the online food hub are working not completely together, but definitely parallel and more interested in working together. And especially once COVID hit and we already had an online system set up, I saw a lot of the farmers market board producers that were initially resistant to the idea shift to that online platform. So I think moving forward, hopefully we'll be able to work in tandem.
Yeah, just to support Emily, that happened in the beginning with Cloverbelt too. There was some degree of competitiveness or fear that the farmers market would be replaced by the co-op, but everybody worked very hard at working together, and it's definitely turned out better than some people feared at the beginning.
We do have a few more questions in the chat, but I was wondering if anyone had any questions that they'd like to speak, to say themselves. If you do, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question.
I'll throw one in here. We've been talking about food hubs that are great examples that are in regions that have a lot of, well, some are larger populations, but that have a lot of producers, eggs, chickens, meat, dairy, as along with produce. Here in Yellowknife, we don't have that yet. And we're working on obviously doing it. But so how do we address whether or not we need this yet if we don't have the actual vendors to participate in something like an online food hub?
Well, it's a tough question, Kyle. And, you know, we were lucky enough to have one egg producer that was producing, he could have sold even more. But for him, this is why I was talking about it in my last slide. We need more work on policies, because he just happened to be an older farmer, and he said, I'm going to test this. I'm going to see what it's going to cost me to get a license. And it cost him over $25,000 to get a license. And in the end, Ontario went and changed the policy again. And after being so successful, it was one of the biggest attractors to the online system, was this being able to get local eggs. And in the end, he just got upset and he just threw up his hands and said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going after another $25,000. So policy is a big, big, big issue. And it also happened with our abattoir. And now, thank goodness, we've got a new reorganization of an abattoir for the area that's a co-op style. But again, it's just surprises in policy that are outside of your region a lot of times. It could be at the national level, they could be at the provincial level, but they do form big challenges for local food distribution. So good question. I don't know, it's your question is a chicken and egg question, like where do you start? But I do know that eggs are a big attractor. So if you can muster together maybe a group of people that would engage in some kind of a license for your area for eggs, I think it would be a big attractor to your market.
I think Connie's right, and it is a good question, Kyle. I think policy is a big part of it. One thing that we did was we were able to again fight for the right to be able to sell cottage foods, and I don't know if cottage foods is a thing in Canada as it is in Alaska and the United States, but the value added products that don't fall under the need for a DEC approved kitchen, essentially. So we've been able to vend sauerkrauts and kimchis and things from our producers and make a more shelf stable product. And we saw a huge rise in our overall income and distribution when our local bakery started selling breads, especially again with COVID. Some of the restaurants getting creative with food distribution for prepared foods even. And our local coffee roaster started selling coffee. So we even can sell t-shirts or seafood, or we have oyster farmers. So we tried to expand our products for what we actually had available, even when the available produce was pretty limited.
Yeah, I believe it's true, at least in most parts of Canada, if you get at least in Ontario, if you get the permission of your home located processor for food, then
Yeah, we have something called a temporary food permit here in Northwest Territories that allows us to do it out of our homes or
Yeah.
a rented kitchen type of thing. So,
and I agree with you, Emily. We were surprised how many creative and wonderful foods arose out of these home kitchens. And I've never done the backbone of what percentage that was of the Cloverbelt, but I'll bet it was 15 to 20% of the income came from what you call cottage foods, what we call home, or we just call them home processed foods. Yeah.
There's a question in the chat, and I just kind of wanted to kind of scoop it into this kind of conversation that we're just having. Andrew kind of mentions, how have you guys seen your hubs play as a role for building capacity, or even, having the hub, and then how many new businesses have you seen kind of arise because you've created this medium or this opportunity for people to sell?
Quick answer, lots. Like maybe we start out with 85 producers, we're up to 200 and some, so lots.
Wonderful.
That we just hadn't imagined. But you do need those cores to really hold it together. And one of them is eggs and local chicken meat. There are a few cores that will bring people in. I'm not sure the most delicious pecan pie in the world will necessarily bring people in, but the eggs and the meat birds will definitely bring people in.
Yeah, I think for us, that would definitely be a Robbi statistic question. But I can say that I agree with Connie, probably several or lots, in that we have a lot of, home growers with a bigger garden that produce more than they're going to consume. And it's a really easy way, since there's such a reasonable introduction cost, which for us, I think is $40 to be a producer and a vendor on the Food Hub. They can just sell what they have extra, and it's really simple to get started that way. So, and we have a lot of, home baked goods. So cookies or muffins or things. And I agree with Connie, though, those staples are really what draw the customers in. Although, again, with COVID and online shopping, that's kind of gone rampant. Yeah. That's helped a lot as far as our consumer level going up.
Thank you both.
There is another question. So Connie, you started to talk a little bit about transportation before, and so just wondering, like, how does the Cloverbelt transport food, like from Dryden to, say, like Kenora and other communities that are so far away, right?
Yeah, it became an organic process, and there became no one solution for all communities. Dryden is the geopolitical center of all these communities. So it started the co-op, and it was the obvious. And at first there were some people that, oh no, we just want this for Dryden. We don't want it for other communities. But the next one that came online was Emo and Rainy River. And they had a daughter who lived in Dryden. So they bought 2 extra freezers, left them at their daughter's house, and then they would bring the meat up to Dryden. So some of them were really organic. And we haven't done as much as we could with fly-in communities. But there is a little bit, but most of those are all organic. Somebody's going up to the community and they take an order, or the community's having a harvest feast and they want local flour and they want local eggs to go with their moose meat or their fish, whatever. So there has been no one way for it. Really had to be very creative. And then there are restaurants that had never really catered to local, food, and they found that it attracted lots of people, into their restaurants. So then they became organizations or private businesses that began to order through the local co-op too.
But Connie, so was it primarily like, did the co-op have its own vehicles, or
No, that is
it was the producers or the people selling the food who moved it around?
Each community that wanted to come on had to figure out a way to come on Tuesday and gather the food.
Okay.
And take it to their community for distribution in that community.
Okay.
And so that is one of the things I think if I was starting out again, I think I would really want to see a more secure transportation system across communities.
And Emily, I think it's sort of so similar where you are, right? Like there's definitely more than, I think I remember Robbi saying there was more than one community that the food hub now kind of operates out of.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a vehicle, to make a short answer. Yep. On when we do our distribution days on Wednesday, all producers come between 11 and 1, and at 1 o'clock we have a van that loads up and drives up the road to Soldotna, which is, I'm sorry, I don't know kilometers quick enough in my mind, but it's about an hour and a half drive north of Homer. And then we have the same van, I'm pretty sure, take boxes that are to fly-in communities over to the small airports. And we used to even distribute to the ferry system to get over to our communities across Ketchikan Bay. So yeah, transportation has now been tied in, luckily, and it wasn't like that the first year. It was more volunteer based, but that runs into its own problems. So having a scheduled and just a scheduled transportation system and reliable transportation system has really been helpful.
Thank you.
And an easy to work online system that you need a grant or something to help train farmers and processors to use that online system, because they're not necessarily savvy in that.
True.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially some of the not to say all older farmers and producers are not tech savvy, but some of the older ones, I suppose. I am a little bit cognizant of time, and we do have a focus group piece that we're going to do right now as well. But we are definitely being very flexible right now with our time. So if anyone does have to go, please feel free to go. If you can stay, great. We can keep talking. Does anyone have any other questions at this point? Or comments?
Well, I don't think you'll ever have everything put together before you start. I think you have to be comfortable with an organic approach where you start with a few things and then you see where it goes, and you're open to the surprises that show up in your community. And I had a student who did a study of Cloverbelt this last spring, and I was just amazed in listening to the recordings from that, how much the community was so empowered by having this opportunity that you could begin to see other products and processes and cottage industries, as Emily calls them, beginning to emerge. So I don't think you can have all the pieces put together. I think you have to be willing to start small and let it grow organically.
Awesome.
Hi everyone. I just want to point out Tracy Williams left quite a lengthy kind of next positive note in the chat there. And I guess just for everyone still on the call, these, of course, are just our two versions of what food hubs are, right? And we know that there are some really interesting ways to learn from them in kind of what's needed on the ground in Yellowknife. And there are some really unique things about Yellowknife that a food hub could look different, right? Because I think a lot of the conversations that we've had so far around a Yellowknife food hub is more of this kind of linking kind of capacity building, like supportive idea. So maybe, again, I think part of the question that maybe didn't quite get answered there, but like what is the role of the food hub in both these locations to like support the people who maybe are at the fringe of the food producer system, like people who are looking to get started. Because I know we've heard a lot of comments from folks in Yellowknife about, well, we need to grow more food because I think Kyle, your point too was like maybe there's just not enough people growing food at this point. So what role do you guys see the food hub in playing in maybe supporting people to kind of grow food and become a producer down the road?
Yeah, and it's to add to that, Andrew, it's also looking at what are your special resources, because we had some incredible demand that we hadn't even thought of for walleye fish that grew up, so look at the resources your community has. Maybe it's not wheat and barley and cows, but maybe it's blueberries and mushrooms and wild rice and fish. So look for the treasures that you have in your area. I don't know Yellowknife that well, but I'm sure there are processes and producers in the area that could build a wonderful local food system, but they may not be like anything in Southern Ontario.
Yeah, I think for us at the Alaska Food Hub, it's just having that infrastructure already in place, having some marketing dollars to advertise. It's similar really in that respect to our farmers market. It's an incubator, infrastructure for small producers, or, growing. I started at the farmers market 15 years ago with like 4 bundles of herbs. And now I'm, one of the bigger producers there. So to have that spot to go to for these small farms in a non-intimidating format, especially the food hub being all online, you set your own prices, you get to tell your story, it's all right there, and you can come to our food hub with 3 dozen cookies, to start, and then build your way up. So it's a really great incubator infrastructure for small producers that might be intimidated to even go to the farmers market and sit there in person, or start advertising for themselves. So I think it's been really helpful in that way.
Yeah, that was a big, just to support what you say, Emily, that was such a big hurdle to overcome, that, because if local producers had tried to work with commercial grocery stores, they were just totally intimidated because they had to have the same thing 52 weeks of the year, and it had to be exactly the same amount. So when the co-op started, wow, this is wonderful. We can produce and put our own prices on and sell when we want to, but we're not committed to 52 weeks out of the year. And that brought a lot of processors and producers into the system, is that kind of flexibility.
I guess I have one final question for both of you. And I'd like to kind of end our question period on a positive note. So I'm wondering if you could just tell us about, one success that your food hub has had that really stands out to you.
Well, in one word, building capacity and empowerment.
Like building capacity. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, could you elaborate a little bit?
But just building capacity to feel that we can do this, and encouraging people to think about their own contributions. It's like Emily says about herbs, right? Like, you know, and then once people learn about them, wow, you can build quite a viable business around that. But who would have thought about it? So that's what I mean by capacity. Like, people thought of things that they were talented doing or had an interest in doing, and because there wasn't a demand for them to have to do exactly the same thing every week of the year, they built their own empowerment to participate in that local food system.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of echo that, and it goes right back to Andrew's question of how to court producers, and I think that non-intimidating, or very flexible, I should say, format is really approachable for even the smallest producer, and they can grow from there. And I think what just spoke, so highly of the Food Hub, when COVID hit and we already had this online system and we saw our consumer base and our producer base jump so far, it was intimidating to start in the beginning and then kind of see it slowly grow over the years and then skyrocket come COVID, when we already had the infrastructure, really slick online system, and that really approachable format. So I think that would be similar to what Connie's saying is it's worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it. But if Kyle's made a point here about lack of soil, well, it may be that the way Yellowknife wants to approach this is to build a few hoop houses and get local restaurants, etc., to throw all their compost into one of these huge hoop houses and begin to build the soil, because you're not going to bring it in. It's too expensive, and you don't want to bring it in. But the combination of building your own soil might be a 2-year project. But I think that's and a hoop house is a wonderful way to go. Like a 60 by 30 foot hoop house would go a long way towards helping to get started. And then, of course, this combination between animals and soil is so important, because that's where you'll get your fertilizer, and you're certainly not going to import that.
Yeah, so Connie, that's where some of the links between Northern Ontario and kind of Yellowknife start to kind of fall apart a little bit. Just again, to Kyle's point, there's a lot of land issues, availability of land. So where I think of this kind of food hub idea, and not necessarily, maybe what Yellowknife wants to consider is a little bit different, but it opens up for a bit more of a regionality of a food system as well, right?
Yeah.
So where you look at Cloverbelt, which is spread over geographically, a lot of the food system if you think about the market and the fact that folks at Nifty and folks from kind of Hay River kind of show up every week or so, where some of those land constraints disappear down in that kind of region of the Northwest Territories, is how can a food hub actually benefit, like bring local food, and local being
and even local compost, right?
Yeah, right. So and I know issues about the size of hoop houses in Yellowknife and land availability are big issues that we're going to have to kind of think about moving forward here as well, right? So
but I also think that that's a good plug for the city's composting program, and the city and Ecology North and what they're doing with the composting program now. So keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And getting the kids education program to get the kids at school to get compost and garbage cans in the basement of their houses. I mean, that's even a big one in Thunder Bay area.
Yeah.
For the winter, you're not going to have compost. So you can, we've had some presidents of the local compost society that have got lots of people with red wiggler worms building compost and garbage cans in the basement. And it works really well. So yeah, I mean, it's those little things like thinking about what resources you have that may be unique to Yellowknife and then building on those. Yeah, I just encourage this creativity. I mean, there are some things that we could say from experience, but then as Andrew says, a lot of it will have to be unique to Yellowknife too.
Yeah, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with that.